What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. BobbyFi with my man Sheets. We are going to be talking through tonight's NBA six-game slate. I'm excited for this one. It's a manageable slate. We obviously have to watch out for information. It's that time near the trade deadline, and these teams are involved, and we don't even know for sure who's going to necessarily be playing in some of the Portland situation, like in the Portland situation. We had the what's his name out of nowhere last night. Was it Greg Brown? That was quite a thing.
Excuse me. What do you mean, not out of nowhere?
What?
Greg Brown, I spent literally 20 minutes on the stream asking people if I had too much Greg Brown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was in my big lineup on FanDuel. Okay, like
that's crazy. That's
why I kept on saying, who is Greg Brown? I kept on saying, who is Greg Brown? And nobody would answer me. And I'm like, all I'm getting is him in freaking FanDuel. And so I kept, but no, nothing else did well. So Greg Brown, and he was showing up in my numbers. He was showing up. I had no idea who he was.
I could understand it on FanDuel, but at the same price of those guys, even with the great game that he had, I don't think he still doesn't pass Winslow or the other minimum.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, Greg Brown was like, between Greg Brown and Julius Randle, those are the only two guys I had that didn't.
Yeah, I didn't have a great night myself either. I had some decent shots at the 200. I thought I had actually a couple lineups. I had two that bubbled the 555, which was a little frustrating. But ready to get back after it. I think this is just for you guys. We talk about this all the time. It's really important to remember if you're playing tournaments, and Rody was going off on this in chat in a very good way the other day. When you're playing tournaments, you don't expect to win every night. That's not the way you should play. If you do, great, but you're trying to go for that ceiling. You're trying to get the win rather than the trying to eke out a profit every day. If you do that, you just could play cash games. And I just want to keep reminding everybody of that, because it's been a really good few weeks for me, but I've only had a few winning days. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm going to go so far as to say something different. I'm going to go so far as to say, and I know this because this is my football. This is my NFL every freaking week. Okay, is if you are playing GPPs and consistently winning like a little bit of money, you are doing it wrong.
Yep, I agree with that.
You're just doing it wrong. Your results should not distribute that way. You should be playing cash with those types of lineups.
Right. It's like a guy who cashes in 40% of tournaments he plays, but never makes a real profit, you know?
Yeah.
In poker. Well, let's pull up your screen. Let's go game by game today, because I think there's a lot to get into. We have a really weird situation with, you don't usually see the back-to-back on consecutive nights in the same arena, which we have tonight with Minnesota and Sacramento. So that's one we can get into, because I know you have a lot of theory and it seems like very, very accurate, very logical theory on how that works, but we'll get into that when that game comes up. Let's start. I guess if there's anybody you feel like is a must-have before we get into go sleep, I think there's a bunch of guys who are really good plays, but I don't think anybody a must-have. One of the good things I did last night was I switched on to a bunch of Damian Jones. He helped a lot of my lineups, because when I saw that Holmes was out and he was starting, I love to attack Cat, and Damian Jones put up, I think, 38 fantasy points or something like that. So he was a great pivot off of some of the other guys. Unfortunately, or 36 fantasy points. They all kind of got there, but anyway, he would be the closest thing as a guy at early look to being not a lock, but a guy who I probably will have a ton of along with Netu. But I think we can go game by game unless you have any.
I'll hold off on it, because my top guy is neither does. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, those are just my first thoughts of obvious cashy plays or whatever. All right, San Antonio, Cleveland. What do you got?
Nothing. I just don't. And thankfully, it's a 7:00 game. I really don't have anything that stands out at all in this game. You like this? Anything here?
Everything. I feel like I could make a case for a lot of guys on San Antonio. I think that my favorite would probably be Vassell. I think people, with the Spurs minutes, we see them fluctuate a lot, but they tend to get projected for their most recent number of minutes. And it's actually interesting that Vassell's projected. I know Lonnie Walker's coming back, but he's been back for a lot of this. Vassell's projected to play, significantly less than he's averaged over the last month, over the last games, even since Derek White got back. So I think that there's a chance, like if he plays 28, 29 minutes, like at 4,100, I think he's in play. But that's the only one on San Antonio. And then I'm going to bite a little bit even after the bad game with Mobley, and I think I will probably play Darius Garland if he plays. That's pretty much it. And if he doesn't play, I'll go right back to Kevin Love on DK. I still like this matchup, as I mentioned the other day, for Jared Allen, but probably won't play him. I really wish I did the other day. When I instead against Charlotte, I played the 25 fantasy points versus 60 fantasy points at the same price. That was frustrating. But I do like Mobley, and I really like I really like Garland if he does go. I think we've seen what point guards have done to the Spurs. He's going to be low owned, et cetera, et cetera. He's probably a little too cheap even for his upside. So I think Garland, assuming that he plays, would be an awesome tournament play. And you know what? We did run this situation, right? Didn't we have this exact thing come up in San Antonio not long ago? It feels familiar. Yeah. Garland put up 54. I think that back then on the other side, a lot more guys were out for the Spurs. But for what it's worth, DeJounte Murray in that game put up, what did he put up in that one? I actually don't have, he put up 60. But I definitely like the matchup for Garland, assuming he plays. All right, Chicago, Charlotte. This is going to be an interesting one. Go ahead, Sheets. Why don't you start this one off?
Yeah, I have LaMelo Ball being the best play on the slate. First of all, I mean, Hayward had been out before, but Hayward's out again. And Hayward's absence provides that usage. And not only that, but Hayward being out also just makes Charlotte a faster paced team. I mean, I saw them play like the other day after Hayward was out. Now, again, it was against also a fast team against Toronto, whatever, but Charlotte, man, they let that shot clock get below like 21 like one time. I mean, like they blitz up and down the court. That's my first thought, is that I like him, but a lot of these guys, I mean, PJ Washington at 4,900, I like him. Terry Rozier, I like him. What's his name? Bridges, Oubre. I mean, all these guys are really good, look really good. And if you play multiples of them, I think it would be probably a good idea to run something back. The top rated guy I have for Chicago is DeRozan, and I have him less than 10% owned right now. I don't know. A lot could happen. I got Vooch being low owned too. All these guys are low owned. Levine also. So what I would do is if I played like multiple Charlottes, which I really might do, I would run it back with at least one of the Chicagos.
Yeah, I'm open to everyone on Chicago, and I would go a step further and say I like Kobe White. I mean, his price stands out to me the most. I think that if I'm ranking them, I would go White, Vooch, DeRozan, Levine, but I really don't mind if you like those other ones are a little bit of mixed up. And the thing with White is if he gets ownership, I think I can jump off of it a little bit, but I don't know. It just feels like a kind of matchup where he could really thrive. Yeah. And I'm interested in that. So I'm interested in him. It is really hard though with the others. I think that Vooch is probably the best play of the bunch, just considering how bad Charlotte is against the position. But again, it's a fast-paced matchup. Maybe that would favor someone like Levine. So Levine, I'm assuming that he's still reasonable over on FanDuel, although he put up a monster game the other night, so maybe not. 8K, yeah. So Levine, this is going to be popular anyway. But I see the theory behind, and it's a great matchup again for both sides. But I see the theory behind LaMelo. I'm just going to point out, with Rozier back, even without Hayward, this is no automatic thing. Like, there is no reason that Darius Garland doesn't outscore LaMelo. Absolutely none, actually. I think Darius Garland, probably median-wise, would actually be more consistently in the 40s to 55, and LaMelo has the 65 to 70. But that's the kind of guy when one guy's going to be 40% owned, the other guy's going to be 5% owned that you should look at. So I do like LaMelo, but I like everybody on Charlotte in this matchup. I think it would go. I do like LaMelo the best, but I think PJ Washington and Oubre both make a ton of sense for their price. I think Terry Rozier and Bridges are a great way to go. You could get a game stack without LaMelo and hope he gets those 2 early fouls like he sometimes does, because they don't have the other guys. Ish Smith is not going to play a million minutes. We don't have Martin in there. We don't have these guys. And it just feels like we should be really attacking this with how few bodies they have. But I don't think LaMelo is the only answer. So I do really want to mix in, and I will have some game stacks of this where I don't have LaMelo in the lineup, because I just don't see people. I think most people are going to just play LaMelo in their stacks, and I don't think you have to. Okay. But this is definitely the game to target. I mean, this and the Sacramento game, depending on how you view the back-to-back situation, I think are the two most interesting games. All right, what do you think about Toronto and OKC?
Well, as I mentioned, I mean, Toronto, I don't know whether Toronto played fast as a function of Charlotte playing fast or Toronto plays fast in general, but I mean, my eyes couldn't even keep pace with that game. So you're right back with these same guys that play 100 minutes, right? Van Vliet, Siakam, Trent, Barnes. Barnes obviously not the same level of minutes or whatever. And Anunoby had a better game. And I think that as long as Nurse is going to continue to roll this way, I think these guys are in play like literally every game. And you know, OKC is not exactly it's a good example. 85 Bears, it's the best I can describe it. So I think that those guys are, you know, firmly in play. Oklahoma City, the top guy I have as a point per dollar play is someone I'm not going to play. That would be Derek Favors. I just don't do that. There's better options, I think, even in that position. So I think that Giddey is a little bit frothy. So for me, I'd probably just play Toronto guys, maybe. And again, it's more tempting to play the Charlotte guys because you can have like better looking run backs from Chicago. But you know, it's hard. It's just hard to say no to those types of minutes of guys like Van Vliet and Siakam.
Yeah, so Van Vliet is a great example of like, if you're building, like the funny part is so everybody will play LaMelo in their cash game. And I understand the game environment. I understand everything. But, you know, wouldn't you feel in some ways a tiny bit more secure with a guy who plays 45 million minutes a game?
Yeah.
And just always like is never going to crush you, really. He's always going to, I mean, he had a pretty much his down game the last game and put up 38 or whatever. I just think it's kind of interesting to consider it that way. And again, I still like LaMelo. I understand liking LaMelo better in that game environment, but it is interesting to think about it from that perspective. I would go, my favorites for Toronto are Van Vliet, Siakam. I have 1 and 1A on those two. I really like both of them. I am more than happy to go back to Gary Trent. Well, my next 3 favorites in order would be Trent, then OG, then Barnes on DraftKings, and then Barnes, then Trent, then OG on FanDuel. I really like this matchup for Barnes to possibly get some stocks and stuff like that, and a little bit cheaper, not much over on FanDuel, but I do like Scotty Barnes and his skill set, his, you know, and the same sort of goes for OG, but he's a little bit more expensive. But I really do think it's a good spot to try and attack these guys. And the guy, you know, I'm curious to see where the ownership really comes in on Dort here, because the one thing I've noticed is that everybody keeps assuming that all the usage is going to go to, oh, it's without what's his name, all the usage goes to Giddey. Well, what if I told you that Dort's usage rate is almost the same? Actually, it might even be higher now without what's his name? It's very, very close anyway, without why can't I think of it? Say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I actually think Dort's a really interesting play. I don't know what to do whenever we see the same thing with Kenrich props more today. It makes a little more sense, but I just think you're playing with a little bit of fire at usually medium ownership. I think Baisley's okay. I think Trey Mann is okay, but I don't have a really strong take on these guys on DraftKings particularly. And Giddey, they finally raised his price a little bit on FanDuel. And I don't think people are playing Giddey on either site really that much today. So I'm actually interested in Giddey as a run back, but it would probably be Dort would be my number 1, Giddey my number 2, Baisley my number 3. That's where I'm at on this one. If you want
a reason to, I'm going to say to fade Ball or play, say, Van Vliet instead of him, I have both Van Vliet and LaMelo projected for 38 minutes. And I believe that the Van Vliet minutes are more secure than the LaMelo minutes. Now, what people are going to look at is
sure, they are.
Their last game, they actually ran out LaMelo 44 minutes in that game. I think that's even all the more reason to be cautious about how many minutes they roll him out in this one. Not that they're not going to try to win or anything like that. I think he's, you know, played a good 36-minute rotation like a normal starter, but I think that I think it'd be almost irresponsible to run him out 44 minutes and stuff like that. Where Toronto, I mean, they don't care about your responsibility. They're going to run them. with that said, I mean, I'm trying to compare them. I don't know what the spread is. I guess Toronto's got to be somewhat close spread, right? I mean, it can't be that bad.
Toronto's favored by 10.
It is 10.
They've been beating everybody, but again, look, it's in OKC. The Thunder can be pesky enough. I still like Toronto. They're probably going to cover that. I'm not going to necessarily make that one of my bets, but probably stay away from this one. But it does feel like Toronto could control this team just because they have too much talent.
Right.
But if again we sell that with OKC and Golden State the other night, and they played a full 4 quarters. That's really all you're asking for. Give yourself a chance. Both Dort and Giddey were pretty good down the stretch. So you just need another thing like that. But I would agree with you about the Melo thing in general. I just think with their current rotations and how many, I mean, you have all the Charlotte guys projecting to play 1 million minutes because they're so shorthanded right now. Yeah. So keep an eye out to see if they even call up some G Leaguers or something, because this is a lot. Like Charlotte is not a team that always runs their guys out there for 40 minutes, and they have been lately because they've been short of bodies. And that's why you want to attack that spot. But the Toronto thing is the exact same. They're going to play 1 million minutes. So Charlotte and Toronto are probably 2 teams you want to look at really targeting heavily today. And we can move on.
So you had mentioned already Damian Jones and Me Too. And those guys rate to be two of the top point per dollar plays on the slate. So we start with that, just presuming that what's his name is going to remain out, right? But let's just look at it. Rashard Holmes, he was out for Tuesday for personal reasons. So we don't know, actually.
For what it's worth, I haven't projected as out, but.
Well, we haven't projected as out because he didn't play last night. You know what I mean? But I mean, he was out for personal reasons, and there's no more updates since then. So we just gonna have to wait and see, right? I mean, I don't know what it is. So if he's out, then yeah, Damian Jones and Me Too are 2 top plays, I think. That's one thing. The other thing that I have is Davion Mitchell at 5,600. Now I don't know. I one of the stupid things I didn't do. Is when they announced Fox in. I mean, Fox was just a great play last night, and I didn't do it. And he did really, really well. I don't know if I'll play him. I can't imagine why I wouldn't play him. You know what I mean? Like if Halliburton is now out, you know, because he's being traded. You still have Fox. I think he's still under 8K against Minnesota. I think it's still. I think he's still. I mean, I don't like playing guys on back-to-back off big games like that, but this is kind of a tough price to ignore, I think. I mean, and likewise, I'm just staring at it. Not to go team by team for a second, but I'm just looking at Russell on the other side of this game at 7K. You know, and he's on a back-to-back, but they only had him play 24 minutes yesterday because of the blowout. So I'm not worried about that. I think these 2 guys can do something. So Davion Mitchell, I don't know. I think I'd rather play Fox than play Davion Mitchell. And on the Minnesota side, as I mentioned, D'Angelo Russell, and I do like Cat today. So Cat and whatchamacallit, Cat from Minnesota and D'Angelo Russell, and then Sacramento. It really depends who's starting at the bigs, but I kind of have to like Fox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you about everything pretty much you said. I think if we don't have Rashawn Holmes, we play at least one of Jones or Metu probably. And I think that you should be playing mixing Alex Len into your tournament lineups. There is absolutely a path where he ends up, Damian Jones gets in foul trouble and he ends up playing well. And like I still want to keep attacking that matchup with bigs against Minnesota and Alex Len. I think there's an outside chance that he could be the highest scoring of these front court guys in this matchup. The Harrison Barnes one I'm struggling with because it's always a guy who, there's a little bit of a sticker shock when it comes to that price. But in terms of aggressiveness, he was there last night. I mean, he got to the free throw line 12 times. He didn't take that many field goal attempts. That's partly because he was at the free throw line the whole time. But I don't know where I land on him. So right now I'm sort of holding off on him. But I do like Fox or Mitchell. And I think you could play them together, but I would probably want to do that more if I was stacking the game. And, last night Mitchell got in foul trouble and that changed things around in that game. So I actually think Mitchell's probably a better play tonight than he's getting credit for. The Russell on the back-to-back in 3rd and 4 after coming back, is a little worrisome to me. And I want to keep an ear out to see if they actually do play him. I think they will because they're on a good little roll here. But I like Cat and I like Edwards. I know that he had nothing lately is going to make you like Edwards. They've been in blowouts lately. There's been weird games, last night being one of them. I think Edwards is a really, really live like tournament play, and he's going to get some ownership on FanDuel where I think he makes a lot of sense at 7,400. But again, if you're going to play him at 74, play him at 82 because he's got 60 plus upside and the matchup is as good as it gets. You do have everybody healthy. Guys like Jared Vanderbilt could get there. Jordan McLaughlin don't chase this, but Jordan McLaughlin put up 40 fantasy points in. So I don't know how Minnesota does it every night. There's always a different guy off the bench who scores like 40 fantasy points in 20 minutes. And McLaughlin got extra run because of the no Mitchell, but how the hell did he get 40 fantasy points? I don't even know. I've never seen that when he even plays 40 minutes. So, they're fairly healthy as of right now in Minnesota. So I do think one of the big guys with Fox or Mitchell and Damian Jones and Metu is my natural lean in this game. All right, let's talk about Golden State and Utah. What do you have here?
I'd rather not.
Great.
I don't really like this game at all.
I love Donovan Mitchell. I think that he's one of the top plays on the slate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that you could make a similar case to maybe not Van Vliet because I don't think he'll play as many minutes, but I don't see him as being a significantly worse play than LaMelo. And I actually think he's a really strong play. So I do like that a lot. Everything else is sort of blah for me. Do we play Jordan Poole with no Clay there again? And it's a high variance situation and Kevon Looney, sure, it could work. It just doesn't feel, I don't feel great about any of the other ones, but I don't mind mixing in those guys for tournaments. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got here. I don't at the moment, I don't particularly see myself targeting this game, but just keep an eye out what happens later on because it is these games are way later. You have a weird two-tiered, the first three games all being, and they start, last one starting at 5 or 8 Eastern, and then you have a 2-hour break until 10. So things could happen in between those hours. So I would lean towards going towards the later games, but I don't think that that this one is my favorite, even though it's a high and tight and it should be interesting. Anyway, we can move on to
so I kind of glossed over it, by the way, before I forgot. You mentioned the back-to-back stuff, and that Sacramento Minnesota game is they're both playing this. They're both playing back-to-back. You know what I mean? Like if both teams are playing back-to-back, I don't really care too much. It's when one team's on the back-to-back and the other one isn't.
Well, we had talked before about the home and home.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you said it was at the same arena.
It is in the same arena, but the home that's pretty rare. But what about just the back-to-back? Minnesota won by 20 last night. Sacramento.
Yeah, when it's home and home, and they're going back to the whatever, then the spread usually just kind of adjusts or whatever. But So last night, what happened? Minnesota won by 20.
Minnesota won by 20, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I naturally would like Sacramento in this spot, I suppose.
Yeah. I still think I'm going to probably bet on Minnesota today, or put the Minnesota as one of the bets, because I hear you, but I just feel like there is a different talent. There's a big talent gap with the way these teams are currently constructed, but it is Sacramento on the back at home. I understand it. All right. Lakers in Portland. That was my one mistake, guys. If you want to, and I don't think I have a general crazy bias. So the Lakers were, I think, 5-point underdogs. I liked them, I think, at plus 4.5 or plus 5 yesterday. I was wrong. That was the one game I got wrong yesterday. Sometimes it sneaks in a little bias without realizing it. I just thought LeBron would show up and really battle. They'd really battle in that game. You just it feels like when Giannis is in a big game, I almost just don't want to ever bet against him anymore. So I'll probably stop. And this is a game where the Lakers are 9.5-point favorites, which just feels crazy on the road on a back-to-back, which Portland is as well. But Portland, they don't have their players. So Sheets, what do you see from a DFS perspective in this one? We did get a little bit of a pricing difference. Portland got priced up a little bit, but not probably enough. What do you think here?
Yeah. So first of all, with the Lakers, under normal circumstances, I would expect the Lakers to sit somebody in this game. They were down 30, and they made a huge run to come back. You know what I mean? They didn't get there. and now they're on a back-to-back with travel to Portland. You know what I mean? Like it's in another season, you probably want to rest somebody in this spot, and also in another season, I mean, these are the types of games where I would just unload on Portland, you know, and just bet on Portland and whatever. But it's a little bit different because Portland is they themselves are on a back-to-back as well. And also, I mean, you're really getting into the Lakers having to win, you know. And I don't think they can afford to rest anybody, if you want to know the truth. And Westbrook has been, you know, first of all, Westbrook, and I'm not playing him on DraftKings on 9,200.
Terrible, yeah.
Yeah, but FanDuel at 7,500 or whatever that is, it's almost sad to see him at 7,500. Think about it. So I'm not going to give out Portland as a bet here. And it's so fun. I'm being like kind of sucked in because I just feel the Lakers have enough pride where we're gonna come out and they're gonna put out a really good game against a freaking depleted Portland team and just do a number on them. You know what I mean? What's the spread? Lakers got to be a decent favorite, right?
Yeah, 8.5.
Yeah, I think they're gonna flex a little bit. And use this as, I would say, get right spot because it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? But I think they're gonna get it done. Let's put it that way. This game. Not enough that I would bet the Lakers, but enough that at least I wouldn't bet Portland. How about that?
Yeah.
So I actually like, and piggybacking off that, I mean, I like both LeBron and AD. I wouldn't play them both, but I think if either of them play, I want to play one of them. You know, they're playing a depleted team and they need to win, and I think that if they're gonna play, that they're gonna play. They're not gonna play and be limited. You know what I mean? Like I think they're gonna play full minutes, and I like both of them. It's not a slate where you're competing with that much. You know, you're competing with LaMelo, who, you know, we talked about that, but hey, let's face it, he's 1,200 less, and it's not quite as good as LeBron, right? In general. And then you're dealing with other, you know, Curry is kind of a fishy spend up. DeJounte Murray at 10-6. So it's not like you're dealing with like Embiid and Jokic, you know, whatever it is. I think LeBron and Anthony Davis are really good plays tonight. So on the Lakers side, I would make sure to play one of them. And then on the other side, I mean, it's I guess the same, except they're a little bit worse as far as value goes because they priced them all up. I can't come up with a reason to, you know, not a reason. I can't come up with a plan for what Portland's going to do aside from what they did yesterday. They're probably going to do something a little bit different. I mean, they did get waxed at home by Orlando, right? They'll just, you know, they want to put guys out to soak up minutes until the trade people come, you know, whatever it is. And, you know, I'll just say what I have now. Right now, my top point per dollar play on the slate is that Trendon Watford guy. But who knows, you know? I have him at projecting for 25 minutes at 3,100. And then I got the Winslow, who's, even though he's priced up at 4,500. Look, he played a bunch of minutes last night. Him on a back-to-back could be fishy, but who else are they going to play? I mean, they got to play somebody. I mean, Ellaby, 4,400. I mean, he's fine as well. Or you can play the good players, right? You can play Simons and you can play Nurkic. I don't know if I'm going to go back to the Greg Brown, but why not? So it's the same thing. It's a late game. On the one hand, I would say you probably want to wait for starters, but on the other hand, I don't really think it matters with these guys. I think they're really just trying to. Oh, Macklemore too. I think they're really just they're gonna try to win, obviously. But I think that if the Lakers do something, I think they're just in the business of soaking up the minutes until the trade finalizes, and I think you got to play some of these guys. I don't know exactly which ones to play though.
Okay, so on DraftKings, for these guys, like I like LeBron and AD too. I actually think I might give AD the edge tonight. I just feel like it's going to be really hard to match up with him. Where it's obviously hard to match up with LeBron, but it might be a LeBron takeover early. Davis goes, and if the Lakers are winning comfortably or like at the 10, you know, that's when you'll see more, I think, AD taking over and not so much LeBron. LeBron tends to like he didn't have a great night last night, but all of the stuff was happening because he was trying to lead them back and kept his usage up like so high. But I think they're both good plays. I think I give a little bit of an edge to Davis. I'll consider Westbrook on FanDuel for a long shot play. And also like with him not close, like it's just been weird lately. I don't know exactly what it feels like, or even at 7,500, it still feels pretty thin, but no one's going to do it. So I'm sort of open to thinking about it. Portland side, I still think Winslow is a strong play. I'd say one of he or Ellaby. I like Simons a ton. He's probably my favorite Portland play. And I think McLemore he just has to get his shot down and shoot the ball. Sometimes he doesn't shoot the ball. But McLemore, and then I'm still considering, even though DSJ let everybody down and it won't be owned tonight, I'm going to consider DSJ actually as a reasonable play. And but I'll probably go one of Simons or Nurkic, who I like better on FanDuel, Nurkic. But I do like, in order of my interest in the team, I think Simons, Winslow, Ellaby in that order, followed by Nurkic, then Watford, then DSJ, and then McLemore. It's some realm of that. It's really hard to figure because they still do have bodies, and I don't know what to do with the Greg Brown thing. I think my answer is probably going to be do nothing. That's the truth. But I probably will, maybe I'll play him in certain tournaments for a large field because I don't think he's going to be owned again. And maybe he needs things to break his way, but they did give him minutes, so I'm open to it. Anyway.
Well, we talked about, so this was the discussion that we had, as I mentioned in the Discord last night. I would say, well, who's Greg Brown? Who's Greg? He's showing up in all my lineups. And I looked at it and someone said that he was a second round pick or something like that. And then the comment was, I mean, if they weren't going to play him, like, why do they play him 16 and 17 minutes on the 4th and the 5th? I mean, they obviously think something of him. So that's why that was the discussion of him. And he did get, even though he only played 20 minutes, he did shoot the ball 13 times, 8 rebounds. So I didn't watch the game, but it looks like an active line, right? I mean, he got to the line. He played, he took 6 free throws, no turnovers. I think he's probably going to get minutes again tonight.
He'll get minutes, but 20 is, I mean, I wouldn't think that I wouldn't like pencil him in for more than 20.
No, I guess not. And so I mean, what are you gonna do? You can't project him for more than 20 fantasy points, right? Even if he plays 20. So but I think between him and the other guy, the Trent Watford guy, nothing really excites me. I don't know. I feel like you're supposed to play these guys.
Who matches up better with Davis though, because I don't think they're going to leave Nurkic on Davis, and I think Watford would be the natural guy to match up better. But you could use Greg Brown. I just think we're getting, these are large field plays still. I think even Watford, I think, is a large field play, but I think he's a better large field play. I think they're both viable, but I would probably lean Watford at the pricing discount, even at the center position. I do think that he's got, even though we haven't seen a ton from him. We haven't seen him without an entire front court except for one game where, I'm willing to overlook one game and just play a guy who would have been 25, 30% owned on this slate yesterday because he was 12% or 10% or something in the green one yesterday. Why wouldn't he be on a lesser slate? So I do have my priorities here. Like I really like I do like LaMelo, but I think I'm just happy to play Bridge. It's really hard to get away from Charlotte. Especially on FanDuel, by the way, which I'll mention in a minute. But I think LaMelo, Washington or Oubre, Bridges or Rozier, or maybe both of those two without LaMelo and Washington, you play together. I do love Garland as a low-owned play. I like Mobley as a low-owned play. On the Chicago side, I like Vooch the best, but I do think DDR and Levine, who's a better play on FanDuel, are definitely in play, but Kobe White also stands out at his price in this type of matchup. Fred VanVleet, Siakam, those are my favorites, but I don't mind anybody who's going to use Trent, OG, or Barnes. Jones or Metu, Donovan Mitchell. Russell Edwards is a question I probably will be underweight on. I don't know if they're going to be that owned, actually. I have to wait. Fox or Mitchell. I know there's a lot of names. Simons. This is the first look stuff. LeBron or AD. Those are my main ones. On FanDuel, some of the things that stood out to me were Ball is still a great play over there. Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Terry Rozier is a little better play over there. Scotty Barnes a better play over there. Anthony Edwards a better play over there. Justice Winslow, a better play over there. Miles Bridges, a better play. PJ Washington, basically all of Charlotte. And then Nurkic also is a better play over there. All right. Is there anything else, Sheets?
No, we're good.
All right. Sounds good. And good luck to everybody out there. And
I'll be there at 6 with you, Bobby. And,
all right. Awesome.
And for those of you hanging around, we're going to be recording golf with Mr. Rick Rungood in a few minutes.
Yes.
And that'll be fun. And that'll do it. Good luck tonight. I'll see you at 6 o'clock.
Sounds good. Good luck, everybody.